I have never seen so many politicians and authorities so quick in cases like this, where you have an African-American mass shooter, so quick to write it off as random. Random. So a guy just one day wakes up and says, I'm going to get on a scooter, I'm going to get a pistol, and I'm going to people randomly. And it's completely random. There is no motive. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Prep Life. Back from Phoenix, Arizona, otherwise known as Baghdad. I mean, when I flew in from Salt Lake City, it was like 80 degrees when I left, and I landed at 110. Predicted this week to be 115. Please be careful. I mean, this heat wave is ripping through a lot of the country. Just please be careful. 115, 120. Some guy told me at 120 to 122 degrees, airplanes can't even fly because they don't have enough lift. I don't know if that's true, because I've certainly flown overseas in airplanes, but might be different for the commercial space. Please be careful. 120 degrees is not to mess around with. Heat casualties. I mean, it was super hot in Phoenix, Arizona. I think it was only like a mild 110 when I showed up. Big shout out to everybody who came out to the book signing at U-Haul in Phoenix, Arizona. If you didn't know, we have a professional and personal relationship with U-Haul. They just loaned us trucks yesterday to be able to make a move from Heber City, Utah, 25 miles down the canyon to Provo, Utah. And they did that because they're amazing partners. Big shout out to Tactical Cowboy and his crew, Fieldcraft, my crew, and U-Haul for getting it done. Appreciate you guys. Let's talk about the personal security class. I did a book signing on Friday. I'm doing that this weekend in Denver, Colorado. Same deal, where Friday's the book signing, Saturday and Sunday. Typically, I train. On Saturday, I did a personal security class. And I often talk to you guys about this because I always learn something from the students that are there. I have different kind of demographics and different experiences depending on the demographic, depending on where I am in the country. Rural Montana, for example, is very different than, Southern California. And I like to talk about those differences, but also lessons learned. So personal security, if you didn't know, is a course, a self-defense scenario-based course that I started a few years ago with Amber. It evolved into a scenario-based course, but the premise was a lot of people in self-defense practice the technical, but they never practice the immersion of those technical skills, or at least the need for those technical skills around decision-making, around stress, around real live role players that are people. People are unpredictable. At least they're inconsistent with their predictability, especially in self-defense scenarios, right? You have somebody who's potentially cool and then they're not. You have somebody who has malice intent and then they're a murderer. You have somebody who is an evil person and they just want to do evil things. So you have to be able to train both technical and then introducing those technical skill sets into a place that's going to force you to make decisions under stress, because that's like the vetted validation that you need in exercising and validating those technical skills that you do all the time, I'm sure. A lot of people shoot on flat ranges. A lot of people get it done. A lot of people dry fire. A lot of people dry practice. I get it. But if you don't implement the stress with real live role players, you are only getting one component of it. Often I see in the technical block of instruction that we have, which is about an hour to 2 hours, depending on the course, a lot of people have technical proficiency. But then when it comes to making the right decision under stress, they often make the wrong decision. We had an interaction where, and I don't like to spoil you on these, and the role play is very different. The scenarios are very different depending on where we go and depending on who's teaching, and that's good. You don't want to game these kind of scenarios. You will anyway, but you want to do the best you can at protecting what's going to take place. One of the scenarios, there's two people interacting. One is the student, obviously, and the other person is the potential aggressor. Not every scenario is meant to aggress to a gun. So they start getting into it, and it's very close in proximity, and then all of a sudden the bad guy draws the gun, and the good guy has nowhere to go. And it's like, what do you do at that point? A lot of people virtue signal about how they want conflict, how they want war, how nobody will mess with them, but they're not understanding how self-defense and the legalities of this work. If you put yourself in a position where you have to use deadly force, likely there were steps to mitigate and reduce risk to you, and especially your family, who likely can't protect themselves like you can. So if you're in a confrontation and somebody goes to attack you, they start pushing you, or they get in your face, and you escalate because of your ego, you don't just drive away. You don't just walk away. You don't just say, okay, man, you win. You're the bigger man. You are putting yourself in a potential worst case scenario where likely one of you is going to get hurt or potentially killed. Now, this coincides, the reason I'm bringing this up, this coincides with the video that's been released. We released it on Fieldcraft Survival of a young man. He appears to be half the size of the aggressor in this case. And I don't know what happened in context before. I'm just focused on what's happening at the time. The aggressor, who's the bigger man, starts verbally talking to this guy, yelling at him, calling him names, then gets himself hyped. I mean, he hypes himself up. He's his own hype man. And then he gets physical. There is a disparity of force issue there, and then there's self-defense. Now, a lot of people who are armchair quarterbacking, who have their opinions, and I get it, are saying some things like unjustified, it's murder. And the other side, they're saying complete self-defense, it's disparity of force. The overall issue that I've recognized in all of these interactions where we are asking of opinions, where I play scenarios where we have people go through a narrative or go through a physical scenario, and there's such different perspectives on it, depending on the person, all the way from the extreme, he shouldn't have pulled the gun, to he should have pulled it sooner, is alarming to me, especially as a Second Amendment advocate, somebody who, I don't want to virtue signal the 2A and the Punisher skulls and all that. You do you. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of people who virtue signal the thing, the tool, the gun, but they have no understanding of how this works legally, morally, or ethically. And so there needs to be a lot more education on it. I plan to do a reacts video to that video. I'll probably do it today because I think talking about it in detail is important. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole too far, more than I already did. But it's important to train, guys. Now, level one of personal security is the science, how your body reacts to certain things, and then putting you in the scenarios. I think level two, once we stand up the Provo, Utah HQ, where we have a CQB shoot house, 3,500 square foot of jiu-jitsu space, fitness space, the list goes on. I want to be able to just take level two students who have been through level one and just work you through scenarios. You show up and you start running through scenarios. Each scenario you go into, we after action review it and you do your thing. I'm going to start teaching. We teach Responsible Citizen every Wednesday, which is a free course. We're going to start introducing single scenarios and talking about them during those courses, which is everything from fire safety to CPR to personal security. It's a promise from me because it's so important to talk about. Let's talk about some of the things that are going on in the news. So there's two major things that happen, one in Philadelphia and one in New York City, where you had, in both cases, African-American males who were involved in what's considered mass shootings. Not mass killings, but mass shootings. Both of these incidents were in the cities of Philadelphia and New York City. I believe it took place in Queens. What everybody knows is these two cities especially are the strictest gun-controlled cities nearly in the country. I mean, there's few exceptions. LA, Chicago, they're all about the same. Philadelphia is a little less. Pennsylvania as a state is a little less comparatively. But overall, in these cities especially, massive gun control and a lot of violence, spikes in violence. I mean, I'm looking at the stats this morning on Chicago, and Chicago right now has seen a 38% rise in crime under the new mayor, Brandon Johnson. The defund the police movement, which is this radical leftist extremist ideology and policy, because it actually happened, continues to wreak havoc in all of these major metropolitan cities, including the streets of Chicago. We're talking about a city that was known for its like food and culture. And right now, Chicago's lawlessness can be attributed to liberal policies and the inept governance of its politicians. The new Chicago mayor, Brandon Johnson, says city traumatized by violence has enough room for migrant surge. The reality of the ground tells a different story with fewer resources. So we're talking about a city that is taking in migrants. They're also getting stipends from the federal government, but they're taking in migrants. At the same time, their city has a 38% spike in crime and violence. So right now, when you look at New York City and you look at Philadelphia, let's talk about New York City shooter first. So you got a gentleman, a Brooklyn man, accused in a string of random shootings across New York City. He appeared before a judge on Monday, charged with murder. This rampage left one person dead and 3 others wounded. This kid's 25 years old, 25. He said he was riding a scooter during the attacks, and he was charged with murder in the second degree, 4 counts of attempted murder in the second degree, and 2 counts of assault in the first degree, and 2 counts of criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree. A spokesman for the DA said that this dude, I won't say his name, I don't want to popularize this guy more than he is, he's accused of riding an illegal scooter. That actually was reported in the statement without a license plate. That was reported as well. And opening fire at random. At random. So it's random. I mean, you ride a scooter, you shoot a gun, and you kill people. It's just random. At 5 different parts of Brooklyn and Queens, the New York Police Department said. By the end of the rampage, an elderly man was dead. I think he was 87 years old. And 3 other men were shot and wounded. Right now, the Queens District Attorney, Melinda Katz, said Monday, thank you to the NYPD for quickly apprehending the suspect. We're thanking police now. My office will hold him fully accountable and seek justice for the victims. He's scheduled to appear in court on Thursday, according to the DA's office. We don't know the motive at this point, that this is actually random. I have never seen so many politicians and authorities so quick in cases like this, where you have an African-American mass shooter, so quick to write it off as random. Random. So a guy just one day wakes up and says, I'm going to get on a scooter, I'm going to get a pistol, and I'm going to kill people randomly. And it's completely random. There is no motive. He says, and I quote, "We don't know the motive. It seems that this is actually random," said Joseph Kinney, Assistant Chief of NYPD's Detective Bureau. Well, Detective, you should probably do a better job of talking to the media and saying that an event where somebody was deliberately killed in a shooting spree is just actually random. How about there's probably a deliberate reason why he did what he did, and that's what we should be looking for here, guys, in these cases, is the motive. Because it helps us understand the psychological issues, to look for early warning signs or whatever it is. You know what's not mentioned in this article from CNN? This very small, not in the headlines, at the very bottom of the page from CNN, nothing's mentioned or talked about when it comes to the gun. The 5 shootings unfold over about a half an hour starting at 11 a.m. After the first shooting, they accessed a video that showed the suspect approaching the victim from behind on a scooter and firing 1 shot. 17 minutes later at 11:27 a.m., police say the same suspect fired a gun at 86-year-old, I apologize, I said 87, 86-year-old Hamu Saidi in Queens. Saidi was shot once in the back, died after being taken to a hospital. Previously, police said the slain victim was 87. Okay. When officers arrived at the scene, they learned of the 3rd shooting. No one was struck by gunfire at that location, but witnesses reported seeing a man riding a scooter. The 4th shooting happened at 11:35. Less than 1 minute after that, the suspect shot a 63-year-old man in the right shoulder. Police said the gunman used the same weapon in all the shootings. The suspect had 1 prior arrest. The NYPD later said he opened fire at a previously unreported 6th location. The suspect allegedly approached a 40-year-old man standing at the intersection of Jamaican Ave and 131st Street in Queens. The man was not injured. The suspect was found with a 9mm pistol and an extended magazine Saturday afternoon. You think that was legally purchased? You think any of this would be reported by the mainstream media in any way, articulating that, hey, wait a minute, these crimes and mass shootings are happening in our city where we have the highest crimes? So they don't report on it, which is unfortunate. Authorities say they have not found a serial number on the gun and are investigating whether the firearm was defaced or might be a ghost gun. In addition to the weapon possibly being illegal, the extended magazines are also against the law in New York, because obviously we're following the law. Evil actors and criminal suspects follow laws. And obviously, if you would have had signs posted that said a gun-free zone, then this wouldn't have happened. So I'm sure we're going to invest some money in doing that. NYPD statistics, by the way, show a 42.7% rise in major crimes. 42.7% rise in crimes. coming from a department just like Chicago, just like Austin, Texas, just like Baltimore, just like Los Angeles, that wanted to defund the police. How's that working out for you? Not too good. Data shows murder rates were up by 9.2% over this period, a 2-year period. Oh, how's that working out for you, New York City? Let's move on to Philadelphia. Good old Philadelphia. So this was not in any headline news because, one, it involved somebody, as initially reported, that potentially had characteristics of white nationalism. So let me go ahead and read this for you. This is from the media. So I don't know if you guys remember, this man is accused of fatally shooting 5 people. He killed one person like 44 hours before the second person, and they say that could have been the lead up to being prevented, but hindsight's 2020. But let me read exactly how they proposed this in an earlier in the week article from CNN. Authorities are also investigating, this is me quoting from the news, CNN specifically, authorities are also investigating a since-deleted social media page believed to belong to the accused gunman. Okay, so the national media is reporting on a mass shooting where a mass killer killed more than 4 people, murdered 5 people, and they're reporting that the page believed to belong to the accused gunman, since deleted, has 40-year-old Kimberly, I won't even mention his name because I can't pronounce it, and I don't want to give this dude any more popularity. And it includes a series of posts about guns, the Second Amendment, and the loss of freedoms, in quotations, according to a law enforcement source. So, not an official source, nobody who came out and said, yeah, we're looking and investigating in this. A law enforcement source, unnamed, states that a since-deleted social media page believed to belong to the accused gunman reports about guns, the Second Amendment, and the loss of freedoms. The most recent public post on the page was made at 10:49 a.m. on Monday and showed a video advertisement for a tactical weapons accessory company. The video shows a man in tactical gear holding what appears to be a military-style rifle. The commercial from the post. In May, the shared posts from pro-gun groups supporting former President Donald Trump and the Second Amendment. In June, he shared a mocking video of a speech now it's not from a source. They're actually just saying, yeah, we're just going to buy into this. He shared a mocking video of a speech by President Joe Biden and added his view that Biden was trying to take our arms. So all the white nationalist protocol here with Trump, with Pro-2A, with the advocacy of guns, military-style rifles, and this guy, he posted on the same day. Now we're just full committed to this. The only thing more terrifying than blindness is being the only one who can see. Other witnesses say he exhibited abnormal behavior for quite a while. Other people who lived in the same house thought he was getting more and more agitated as the days were passing by. In a court hearing Wednesday, he was arraigned on charges of murder, attempted murder, assault, reckless endangerment, and weapons charges. In Philadelphia, where you have strict gun control measures in place, where everywhere you go in the city of Philadelphia is a gun-free zone, this gentleman fatally shot 5 people by going on a rampage with an AR-15, a pistol, and full kit. So they found a will written in the suspect's handwriting dated June 23rd when executing a search of his home. He said the will did not describe any plans to carry out the shooting. Investigators also found a .380 caliber handgun, ammo, live rounds that match ammunition at the scene of the shooting. I love the fact that this whole entire thing, which painted him in the picture to be a white nationalist, doesn't even have a picture of him in it until the very, very bottom. And nobody in the national media, especially on the left, is reporting this in headline news. Why? It, again, does not fit the narrative. Because the narrative is we are creating laws that, yes, we know it's suppressing and violating your constitutional rights, but we're creating laws that are going to protect you because we'll protect you. At the same time, from anywhere from 30 to 50%, we're seeing increases in murders and statistical crime across the board. And anything violent related is going up. That 30 to 50% with an increase of nearly 10% in murders because we have a policy of defund the police. That's our strategy here. We're going to take all the guns away from you, and at the same time, we're going to take all the money away from the training that's necessary for the police because we're saying to you, we're taking your guns, you're outsourcing your security, we'll take care of you, but we can't take care of you. And in fact, all the laws now that are being shown and demonstrated that were supposed to protect you aren't going to protect you. That gun that we stripped away from you, from being able to protect you, your family, in public at your house, you can't have it. But you know who can? A guy who rides around on a scooter murdering innocent people. A guy who goes on a rampage murdering innocent people. I don't care about the race. I don't care about the ethnicity. I know we're dealing with a mental health dilemma with bad policy, bad political actors, and nobody willing to step up to the plate. And that's the problem. That's the recipe for disaster and why in 2024, we're going to be in a world of hurt. A world of hurt. What do I got going on in the near future, guys? I got, what's going on? Rewilding. I'm going to get rewilding up in November and December. We're contemplating whether or not to do that because we need to be flexible because the winter here last year was brutal. But we're going to do it. A lot of demand for that course because it's sold out across the board. I'll bring it back to you, I promise. I have included some conversations on things like, scarcity mindsets. You know, the poors, the people who are like, it must be nice. I mean, look, I know people are like, Mike, don't focus your attention on that ever. And I don't, as a rule of thumb. But I do want to help educate, especially young men, on the situation that exists in our culture with this mindset, which is a scarcity mindset, where everybody thinks everybody's in competition with them. And so if I talk crap about you online, then it's like, oh, well, I just had to do the right thing. No, what you did was you try to disaffect my market because you have a scarcity mindset. You're not willing to talk to somebody in person or like a man. You're just willing to talk crap. And that happens a lot. Just like all the people in all the comments. I mean, you can't post a picture about your dog without somebody losing it. So we do a video on Fieldcraft Survival and post a video about our Land Cruiser because it's cool. I mean, it's a overland Land Cruiser. And had several comments from the poors. It must be nice. What must be nice? Your sedan costs more than this Land Cruiser. I paid $20,000 for that Land Cruiser out of a dude's backyard in Oregon, and then had it fixed up with like no amenities. It's a basic right-hand Land Cruiser made in 1994, guys. 1994. It's nearly 30 years old. But it must be nice. Like, yeah, I guess it is nice. Because if you have a feast mentality or mindset instead of a famine mindset, then you understand if people are doing good things in the world, you should be rooting for them, cheering for them, because that's how you evolve as a person. But instead, a lot of people now have a scarcity mindset. Anyways, I go down a rabbit hole because I don't want to talk too much about it. I did it on my Substack. I got a Substack now where we talk in the weeds about mental health, about mindset, etc. But man, I'm off to the underground, guys. Thanks to Patreon for paying for this. Every one of my Patreon members who supports this channel, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't do this channel. I don't have a lot of time in the day, but because you support this channel, I support you and I support everybody else in the YouTubes. Unfortunately, we're getting suppressed. That's a thing. It's going to happen more and more. I'm already seeing guys' accounts getting taken down, their posts being suppressed or deleted. Fieldcraft Survival is definitely suppressed on YouTube because we're extreme preppers. We're radical because we want you to be prepared, but that's okay. We'll just negate that and work around it. You can go to my Patreon to see the underground, patreon.com/Mike Glover, or go to my Substack, or do both. Until next time, guys, peace out, and I hope you have a good weekend off to Denver, Colorado. See you guys this weekend.